Today, we're going to see a hurricane moving in. Winds right now 145 miles per hour or 235 kilometers an hour. It is moving to the west-northwest at about 20 miles per hour.
As Barbados Light and Power weathers stormy economic times while endeavoring to keep its service standards high, how does the current infrastructure fare against actual hurricanes? In this episode of Lights Up, we look at Barbados Light and Power's resilience to all kinds of events. Stay tuned. At about 1 a.m. one August Sunday morning in 2008, Barbados went from this to this. When the cause for this island-wide blackout was discovered, it became the catalyst for much laughter among the public and the press. Barbados Light and Power, like most electrical utilities globally, will from time to time face challenges with the local wildlife impacting its overhead network. Depending on the nature of that contact and the timing of it, this can result in two unfortunate outcomes: the death of the creature by electrocution and the immediate activation of our electrical protective systems that can cause widespread or even total outages. That's for your safety. But events like this do bring to mind the question of resilience.
Today, we're going to see a hurricane moving in. Winds right now 145 miles per hour or 235 kilometers an hour. It is moving to the west-northwest at about 20 miles per hour.
Okay, so resilience planning is something that we've been doing for many years. Recognizing the fact that we exist inside a hurricane belt, we are always trying to improve in terms of our resilience. So year after year, we normally will come up with some projects to be able to improve the resilience. Now, over the years, what we've done is that we've made a number of our main transmission lines that would carry power from our generation stations to our substations on the ground. So today we have about 60% of our transmission lines on the ground. And we also have some of those distribution feeders, the lines that actually bring power into the individual areas for distribution. Some of them are on the ground. 8% of them are on the ground. The substation buildings are built to withstand at least a Category 3 hurricane. The actual poles and the lines out there, our network, typically will be able to withstand a Category 1 to Category 2 hurricane. Planning for the hurricane season is a big exercise, and it's something that we take very seriously here at Barbados Light and Power. So at the beginning of every year, we would normally bring all of our teams together. We have teams from each department across the company who has responsibility for various areas of the hurricane preparation. We will review our stock that we have on site, that being poles, lines, transformers, meters, those sort of things that we would need in the event that we were struck by a hurricane or storm and need to do restoration. So many years ago, what we would have taken the decision to do was to link all of our major substations by underground infrastructure, transmission lines. That enabled us to be able to transmit power across the island. In the event that there's bad weather, there's storms, we can get power to the various substations, and by doing so then we are able to feed very critical customers. So for example, the hospital is fed by underground, the airport, government headquarters, the Barbados port is fed by underground supply. So such that in the event that there is a hurricane, we can supply them with power throughout that period, and even after the fact, while poles and lines may come down and it takes a number of days to restore those services can be back up and be running almost instantaneously.
With hurricanes, you know that we're a first call. At the end of the day, you can't control Mother Nature. Mother Nature will do her damage. The best you can do is repair it. What may happen is you may have a couple poles blown down, you may have a couple trees across lines, you may have a couple places without electricity. So our job, as soon as we get the all clear, is to basically go and make outside safe so that the general public will have their all clear shortly after.
We all, along with several other utilities across the region, are members of that Carrilec Disaster Assistance Program. And what that means is that any one of us that is impacted in the event of a hurricane receives support in the form of the utilities sending our crews in to supplement the ones that are on the ground. So for example, with Beryl, this year we would have sent a crew to assist our colleagues in Grenada.
On behalf of Grenlec, we'd like to welcome you to Grenada. We know that your work here is going to be of a great impact to the people of PT Martinique and Carriacou.
Of course, Grenada and St. Vincent would have been severely impacted, as well as Jamaica and the Northern Caribbean. And throughout the region, Barbados, as well as our other utilities that are members of Carrilec, would have provided all three of those islands and their territories with support following the passage of Beryl. And that has been the case for many, many years. And while we have been fortunate in the event that we are impacted by a storm or a hurricane and need that type of support, they're ready and willing to assist us in the event that we are impacted ourselves.
Like a lot of other Caribbean islands, tourism is the major economic driver for our tri-island destination of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique. The mere fact that tourism is so important, it makes our economy extremely vulnerable to the impact of weather events. So when we had Hurricane Beryl strike, it left Carriacou and Petite Martinique totally decimated. So it was really important for us to get the islands back up and open for business. Fortunately, a lot of our Caribbean neighbours stepped in along with several international agencies. And when the team arrived from Barbados Light and Power, Domlec and Lucilec, they stayed for over 3 weeks and worked with our utility company to ensure that the electricity was back up and running. And you know, Carriacou literally had only about 15% electricity, but they went straight to work and replaced the conductors and salvaged materials and wires and stabilized poles because, you know, at the end of the day, the world runs on electricity. And I was really impressed with the urgency of those teams. So thank you to each and every one of those who came to the assistance. The people of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique are supremely appreciative.
Of course, we work in a sector that has many, many hazards. We're working with electricity at very high voltages. We're working at significant heights. We're working in weather conditions that are not always the most favorable. And so many of our staff, whether it's in a very high temperature power station or is out on a truck in a bucket or climbing a pole, we work in very, very hazardous conditions. And so our employees have to remain very committed to safety, to operating in an efficient and reliable way. And we work very hard along with our teams to ensure that we maintain that level of commitment and standard. There are instances where we, of course, operating a 24-hour operation, have something that might occur on, you know, at midnight or 2 a.m. in the morning or Christmas Day. And we sometimes have to call on our staff during those difficult periods to come out in what may not be the most favorable conditions. And for the last 3 decades that I've been here, when we call on someone to come out, they've essentially come out. So we do see a level of commitment from our staff that I'm greatly appreciative of.
On the next episode of Lights Up, we look at Barbados Light and Power's plans for the future provision of electricity to Barbados on the road to 2030. Join us.